episode is brought to you by Lightstream, the nation's premier online consumer lender. Lightstream offers low-interest fixed-rate loans from $5,000 to $100,000 for practically any purpose. It's also brought to you by our newest Patreon member and past guest, Jenny H. Yes, Jenny. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you. I couldn't do this without you. Thank you. I am so grateful to all of you Patreoners who are making this show a possibility.
The Queer Family Podcast. Love is love on the Queer Family Podcast. Love is love on the Queer Family Podcast. Love is love on the Queer Family Podcast. Love is love.
Angela and Jess.
Hey, hey.
Hello.
Happy Monday.
Okay, so Angela and Jess are back to help me introduce the interview that's coming in. Angela and Jess are from, I think we go way back to season 5, episode
Way
16. And then also you were back again, season 9, episode 13. So you have 2 episodes.
That's right.
Can you give a recap as best you can to our listeners? Who are you two and why do you keep coming back?
I don't know, because we're gluttons for punishment, I think.
No.
Nah, because we love you too much.
I love you too.
Okay, so we've been together for a long time. We met at Columbus Pride. I decided to get pregnant first, and I had HELLP syndrome. That's the first episode we recorded.
HELLP.
Right. Yes. And
Gave birth to our beautiful son, who is now 3 and a half.
God.
His name is Joan.
yeah, going on 13.
Yes.
Aren't they all?
And then now we're in the process, which we should say not in process because it's been
still a
almost
process.
24
Oh,
months
shit.
Right.
of getting Ange pregnant.
So our second episode was kind of updates of
AKA,
where we were.
we are
and-
full of content.
Oh, yeah. So I did 4 IUIs. And I think when we recorded in season 9, I was about to head into IUI number 2.
Ugh.
And it hasn't worked. So we went through an IVF process. So we've done 1 cycle of IVF.
Oh, shit.
With
Retrieval.
retrieval.
Okay.
Retrieval, not
That's at the
transfer.
only place that would work with me based on my BMI, which is ridiculous. That was like 2 hours away that I had to go to this clinic every other day, basically, as they, did a 15-minute meeting with us to look at my uterus and
More uteruses, but you don't have a
more
unicorn.
uteri.
You don't have a
Yeah,
unicorn
so
uterus,
this is
so you
it's
can't
so
I
claim
know.
that.
funny. And wait, this is not funny because
Yeah.
it's sad that this is an ongoing
I
process
know.
for you. But it's funny that y'all are here to introduce this interview because the 2 that are coming in, Maria and Jill, had a really interesting baby making journey as well with a unicorn uterus
Yeah.
and like
That's the good and bad in our intentional families is we know so much more about our bodies than the typical person.
At least through this process.
Yeah.
So her finding that out is unfortunate, but it's also good in the long run that she can make those decisions.
Okay, so the Maria and Jill, the first one gave birth and it was kind of difficult, and now they're trying to decide about if they want to have a second, and that's what you were just speaking to, Jess, and they're kind of grappling with it.
Mhm.
The fact that there is really so little research done on bodies that contain uteruses that all the time we're learning about these horrendous things that can happen in the freaking moment. Case in point with your HELLP syndrome that happened to y'all, and then what Maria and Jill find out in their baby making process. And it's like
Mhm.
baffling to me. And just to be transparent, they did suffer a miscarriage, and it was what was called
Yeah.
a silent miscarriage, which was
Silent.
new to me. And then there was like,
New to them too.
Yes.
Yeah.
and
how common it is.
how common? And then why are we learning? Why is there not enough education and research done on our bodies? And it pisses me
Right. Well,
off.
and to that note, also, why is there not a lot of comfort care given to those women who are experiencing that
Yes.
or uterus having people? I should use the correct terminology. Anyone of us who have uteruses who are going through something like that, there's a whole aspect to medical care that's being ignored.
Yeah.
It's still a huge process to try to get pregnant, to go through the selection and then to find out you are pregnant, and then like just a couple weeks later figure out something's not going the way that you thought it would. And maybe if it was a heterosexual baby making way type of situation, you may not have even known that you were pregnant at that point. But we're fully invested in these families. So even though it's very common, it still doesn't negate the fact that those couples, those people need comfort care, and more resources should be provided. It wasn't for them. At least that's what I gathered from the episode.
Yeah, like they barely
give them a hug.
They barely told her. They barely told her in the room, and then she was like, I have to sit here and process this.
You know what? I think y'all could just do the whole interview, and
Sorry, we're giving a lot of spoilers, aren't we?
It's okay.
Sorry. I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's 100% worth it. Like, as much as our kid is a pain in the ass, and you know, these processes to getting pregnant, we wouldn't have these wonderful, beautiful stories to share with people.
Yeah.
Not only those stories are wrapped in education to people on how queer families are made, which is so important, which is why we have this podcast. So that
and the book, right?
Oh my God. They just held up my book. Me and Robin's book. Oh, I love that. Yay.
It's my book for the month.
Oh my God. Thanks for reading the book. And if y'all want to go buy it, you can buy it. If These Overs Could Talk, the things we've learned about making an LGBTQ baby. Is that it? I haven't said it in so long. Wherever you buy books. And we also have an audio book, which is read by myself and Robin Hopkins, my previous co-host. But because you're in the thick of it right now. You really are. Y'all are trying to get pregnant, and
we're waiting for
grass grows faster than our process.
It does. Right. We're waiting for a frozen transfer, trying to figure all that out.
Okay, because you did the retrieval. And did you get it?
And we only got one.
Not a lot.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I am older. There's a lot of other things that go into that. There are different things that depend on your age and the quality of your eggs and things like that. Even though all of my tests were good and I had lots of follicles that looked like follicles, sometimes you don't know the difference between a cyst and a follicle. Right. And I do have polyovarian cystic syndrome. So or polycystic ovarian syndrome, one of those things. So you just don't know. But now we know we have one chance. And of course, also keeping in line with how things go in our life, we did test it. We tested the embryo, and then it was inconclusive because they didn't get enough of the cells or something.
Do you get a refund on that?
No, luckily I have insurance.
It was paid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thankfully, but
if
I want a refund on the freaking whole IVF process.
Well, you only got one egg, right?
It
wasn't faster than a quick oil change. I mean, I went in there, she went back, and I was like, she just went back.
I was looking forward to a nap. And then I also had to think about and ask the questions to our doctor. What happens if at 9 weeks, when we do the genetic testing, since we weren't able to get conclusive results, what happens at that point, being in the Midwest, if I have to have a medical abortion?
Oh, shit.
You know?
Oh,
so,
shit.
Right. Things to think about.
Oh, my God.
Bottom line is you should not have to go through this.
Yeah.
Right.
Bottom line, you should be able to have medical access in every freaking state. It shouldn't matter.
You should be able to do what you need to do.
This is a whole other podcast, which I'm sure we're happy to come back to.
But as someone who lives in a state where there's the heartbeat bill, and then in the state where my physician is, there are like no options whatsoever. I had to get confirmation from him that he had connections in other states where that could be an option if I needed to go to that.
We will get you in the right area.
Which is just ridiculous.
It's like an underground railroad.
It really is.
Medical care.
This is medical care for people with uteruses. That's what this episode should be called.
It could be what the fuck too. But yeah, I mean,
we are, as cisgendered, women, we're kind of at an advantage even when we're talking about, other people who have uteruses who are trying to have families, and they're already going through their own issues as well, just trying to find providers who will work with them.
Yeah.
If you're transgender or agender, however you present yourself to them.
Wherever you are on the spectrum.
There's a whole different level of medical care that
right now it's bad.
Right now it's very scary.
Shoot, you're going to need to save all this for a second episode.
I'm telling you, I'm trying to reel myself back right now.
All of you at home, this conversation went all kinds of places. We talked way longer than we were planning to, but we couldn't put the whole conversation into the intro. So if you want to watch the rest of this conversation on video, you have to head to Patreon. Go to the Patreon. Yeah. It's going to be there. This conversation, we go deep into some other topics, and it's really hard to stop talking to Angela and
things that
Jess.
Need to be talked about, things that need to be on the airways.
Yeah. This was beautiful. This has been amazing.
Aww.
We have to tell you know who to roll that tape Would y'all like to
Oh,
do
yeah.
the honors? The two ladies who are
Would you like to do
necking
the
in the
honors?
corner.
It's true. Helen and Beulah.
Where did Beulah come from?
She's new.
She's
She's
new.
new.
She's new.
And did you know that Helen entered the podcast the very first time we were on the podcast?
Oh, you were the
That was-
beginning of Helen.
we were-
Yes, we were the
we were-
beginning of Helen.
We were Helen's
God.
conception.
Yeah, you manifested Helen right before we came on the podcast.
Oh my God.
And now here we are introing them, right? Helen and Beulah, roll the tape.
Queer Family Podcast.
Wait, Helen, before you rolled that tape, this is Jamie's daughter, Rose. I have to tell you that you should join my mom's Patreon. My mom's Patreon. My mom works really hard on the show, but even with the sponsors, she really doesn't make enough profit to hire a real assistant or a team. So please go to Patreon.
Patreon.
Please go to Patreon. So please go to patreon.com/the Queer Family Podcast and join now. You'll do a good thing and get bonus content. She really loves this stuff.
The Queer Family Podcast.
Well, hello, Jill and Marie.
Hello.
I'm very excited to have you. And let's just jump right into it, shall we? Let's just jump right into your elevator pitch. Tell us who you are, why you're here in 30 seconds or less. Good luck. On your mark, get set, go.
All right. Jill and Marie here. We both swiped right. We fell in love and decided we wanted to get married. Somehow totally accidentally proposed to each other on the same day, which was magical. Did the marriage thing, the house thing, and decided we wanted to start a family. So we went through the fertility clinic and sperm donor. And after 3 IUIs, we have our now 18-month-old daughter, Nora. And now we're trying to decide, do we grow our family again or do we just get a dog?
Boom. That was good. That was
30 seconds.
that was right on top. You practiced. You practiced. You're no
a couple
joke.
times in my car. I did. I'm not going to lie.
I love
I'm
that.
very competitive, so that's awesome. You just
for
won.
sure.
That was perfect. That was amazing. And you managed to get the dog in there in true lesbian fashion. So I'm really proud of you.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Really proud. You
There always
can, and
has
you
to be a
and
dog.
just for the record, you can always get a dog on top of the other kid. Not put them on top, but you know what I mean. Like you could always.
But yeah.
But I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. I would recommend waiting. Don't do them at the same
There's
time.
options. There's options.
There's
Okay.
options.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's dig in. So you swiped right. Does that mean you met on a dating app?
Yes.
Tinder. Yes.
Tinder's
The
success
dating app.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly, I do think you had a picture of you and your dog at the
I
time.
did, I did.
That was a
Yeah.
selling point.
Yeah. And I think you were reading or something. So
As you do.
Yeah.
Perfect
Yeah,
fit.
that- all the stereotypes. But yeah,
Yeah.
and then I think I think I asked you out on the first 3 dates. I really went for
Mhm.
it. And then from there it was just,
I get a lot of crap for that too, because I didn't ask you out at all till.
Uh-oh.
But then like date 4, I was like all in, and you
Yeah.
were probably like, "Whoa,
What
back it
happened?
up a little bit." We're on
we have
to
this
date
thing where
4.
like I vividly remember her just bringing like an overnight bag, like a very stocked, like, oh, I'm sticking around kind of
which
thing.
I adamantly denied.
Yeah,
But
it
she-
happened.
So when you met, had you both been living that lesbian lifestyle?
Yes, but not for very long. I mean, I think we were both pretty late bloomers,
Mhm.
right? I mean, I didn't really come out per se until I was like 25, maybe 26 or so.
Mhm,
And then I had met you at like 28 maybe.
Yeah,
Um,
I had just started dating girls like the 6 months prior, so you
Okay.
were like.
yeah, I
maybe
guess
like
I was
the
a little
third
bit
or
more into it
fourth.
than you.
Yeah, you had a little bit more going on there.
Okay, so beautiful, things are hunky dory, and
Mhm.
then the proposal happens. What happened here? What is
yes.
going on? This is so I feel like this is just like the lesbian story.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. Let's hear it.
Yes, we were dating about 2 years at this point, and talked about wanting to get married, and we kind of landed on that I would be the one proposing.
Uh-huh.
Because you're just more romantic and I'm soulless at times. So it was like, oh, let's do something like fun and exciting for her,
I
a
want
fun
to pause
surprise.
for a second because I'm just thinking back to before My wife proposed to me, and it was like, this is something I haven't thought about. There is kind of a discussion. Well, for us, there was a discussion on who was going to be the one to propose, and it was decided between the two of us. This is so funny that you're bringing me back to this, that she would propose. I was like, obviously you propose. That's something that's unique to our relationships. That's so funny that you bring that up. Yeah.
And I feel like we kind of knew too, like when we started talking, that I would do it. Like it was just kind of like, oh yeah, you would be the one. But it would kind of landed on that reason being so like, funny. It'd be nice to have, you have like the surprise and whatever. We figure out the rings. And so then we'd kind of both have them on hand. So when I proposed, she'd kind of could be ready to propose back.
Wait. You were going to propose and then Marie, you were going to propose back? That was the plan?
I don't even know if I thought it through that much.
Well, I think we wanted to have the ring.
I'm so bad.
I know, memories are terrible. I thought we wanted to have the ring on hand. So then it was like, if you were able to like, not too long after be able to kind of like propose back kind of thing,
She's
or like
right.
have the ring, like then we could do
That's
it that way
sweet.
versus like waiting a while to get the ring.
Look at us queers stepping outside the box with this proposal plan.
Right?
I love it. So outside the box. Okay.
So then it didn't take me too long. I planned for like that April. We had like a little long weekend getaway to Algonquin, Maine, which we like loved and had been to. So it was like a special place for us. And, I had this idea, there's, the Marginal Way there, which is like this beautiful, seaside, like cliff walk.
But meanwhile, I had the same idea. So I remember in my head being like, she's just not going to do it for a while. So I'm just going to have this plan in my head and like just do it. And I also was like, this is going to be so much more surprising to her because I've been like dropping these hints and whatnot. So I was like, I'm just going to take the reins. So it's like what you're describing, your plan was mine.
That's
like
hilarious.
it's same spot and everything.
Oh my God.
So we get down to Maine and I have this idea of this, in your head, right? This, it's nice and there's beautiful, cliff sidewalk and whatever. That's where I'm going to do it. And it was like this fluke of a snowstorm. Like it was like hail and like a couple of inches in like the middle of April.
Oh. Awful.
And, so we were just kind of nervous about that. And, so we're obviously both in our own heads, and just kind of nervous about our plan. And we, just head to the bar and I think have a couple drinks pretty quickly. We were so not subtle about things too. Like you had
a massive bag with me.
You had a massive bag that had this eventually had, like the sign in it that said like, will you marry me? I had like a champagne bottle, probably just like sticking out of my purse.
So it's like not call each other out at that point. We're both downing drinks. And then we're like, let's go for a walk. It's a blizzard.
Yeah. Beautiful day for a walk. So we, probably kind of tipsy, like huddle up in our, coats and start going on this walk. Our large bag and start going on this walk. And we sit down like on a log looking, out the ocean. And Marie starts to show me on her phone. She starts to play a video and it's like this compilation of like pictures of us, mixed to some music. So it was like super cute. Still hadn't really dawned on me then that you were doing anything. I'm still like in my head, like, okay, like this is great, but let me get going here on my proposal. And then the last like picture in the video is Marie holding a sign that says, will you marry me? Yeah.
I was just like, and then you were like, wait.
I pulled like the ring out of my pocket. It was just like, but like just could not speak either. Like, I think I just was like,
you did though.
You
did a great
Like,
proposal. And I was so nervous at that point that I was glad that she hijacked it because I was like speechless.
I did hijack
I was like, can the video speak for me?
He's like, I made a video. I just need an answer. I'm not speaking anymore. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, you saw it. What do you say?
Yeah, we both we just kind of blacked out for a bit, each of us. I think, you were bawling. And so then I was able to kind of like, get down on one knee and kind of do the full proposal piece.
And there was actually people watching us from above that were clapping that I didn't even realize they were there until after the fact. And I'm like, oh my God, there's like 15 people like watching us right now. Yeah. But it's funny how you black out your entire environment when you're that nervous. I'm like, oh, there's people out there.
Yeah. And then you both said yes. And then it was like, and the rest is history. No, there's a lot more history to unpack, actually.
Yes.
Okay, folks, we know that queer baby making costs some money in most cases. It costs some money. And some of us, before we start that baby making process, we want to take control of any debt we may have. We want to get our money in order. And so if one of your goals this year is to take control of your credit card debt, I have a way for you to do it. You can pay off your credit cards faster with a low fixed rate loan from Lightstream and start saving that money to make them babies or buy a house or whatever it is you want to do. Like, I'm not assuming you all just want to make babies, but chances are you might because you're listening to this show. So listen up. A credit card consolidation loan from Lightstream can help you pay off your credit cards and lock in a low fixed interest rate. Rates start at 7.99% APR with auto pay and excellent credit. Plus, the rate is fixed, so it will never go up over the life of the loan. And you can get a loan from $5,000 to $100,000, and there are absolutely no fees, which I love. You can even get your money as soon as the day you apply. And just for the Queer Family Podcast listeners, apply now to get a special interest rate discount and save even more. The only way to get this discount is to go to lightstream.com/OCT. That's lightstream.com/OCT. Disclaimer, subject to credit approval. Rates range from 7.99% APR to 23.99% APR and include a 0.5% auto pay discount. Lowest rate requires excellent credit. Terms and conditions apply, and offers are subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com/OCT for more information. Just go do that. Make those babies.
Queer Family Podcast. Love is love.
Why don't we skip ahead? So you get married. When does the family planning come into picture?
I would say like probably a year in or so. So we always knew we wanted to have kids, like kid or kids or whatnot. And I think like we had bought our house like in February. And I think by the time it was maybe April or May, we started the process.
But that was also like 2020. So like
2020.
COVID just just started too.
Yes. We had known sort of that I was going to do it first. I just kind of wanted to do it one time and sort of one and done type of thing. So
like to carry and experience like the whole.
Yeah. We had our donor sort of picked out before that too. We kind of went through a search, which is kind of overwhelming. There were so many choices.
Let's unpack that donor search, shall we?
Yeah.
I think I know it was a little bit difficult.
Well, so I'm like the type that like, I just like to do research on like everything to the point where it's probably detrimental at times. So like we had paid for like the monthly membership and then I went through like so many donors and like got it down to 3. And then I think you got your own list. And it was just funny because like our lists were like the personalities of the people we chose were so different. And I think at that point too, it was more about like, obviously we're concerned about like health history, medical history. Like we kind of didn't really want a whole lot of that, but like,
yeah, we were on the same page about
I think
those
you
things
wanted
for sure.
Yeah. I think you wanted someone, correct me if I'm wrong, more like funny and like social. And I was like, well, yeah, that's important. But like, I want them to also be like, grounded and intelligent. And so we had kind of found like a middle donor that like made a couple jokes because we got like an audio too and we got to listen to him. I think that really kind of sold me on that. So we actually made that decision. And then the next day I got a call saying, hey, are you really interested? Because I kind of put like 7 vials on hold, I believe. And they had gotten so many calls like overnight, like, hey, if you're interested, you need to like kind of move forward with this because they were going to sell out. And I was like, this is our person.
This was at like one of the bigger sperm banks.
Yeah. So I think at that point we're like, this is our person. Let's do it. I thankfully didn't have any fertility issues initially. And so like, I think we kind of went into it thinking, oh, this is great. I got my first IUI and got pregnant right away.
Wow. And you had bought 7 vials.
Yes.
Which is wise because you don't know how long it's going to take. So, and especially if he's getting bought up, you want to buy what you need, right? So,
I know.
Right.
And he was sold out at that point, like
was.
sibling only after we got our vials.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, so we had gotten pregnant on the first try. And, I think I was kind of naive about it, to be honest. I think like, you think everything's going to be fine and you're like, this is wonderful. And you're kind of like in that happy zone. But I think like it's so early and you just don't think of maybe the negative things that could happen. And I think like because we had IUI, we had a 7 or 8 week, 7 week ultrasound, I think.
Mhm.
So everything seemed fine, normal. I went in and again, this was during COVID. So
Right.
I went in by myself.
Yeah. For like pretty much every appointment you had. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but for the heartbeat check, I went in
Yeah.
and, you know, they just couldn't find a heartbeat.
Ugh.
And I think I was really surprised because all of my blood work was normal. Everything was doubling.
Yeah.
So like my placenta and body was doing everything it should be doing because my blood work was great, but that still doesn't tell you the health of like the fetus, which I think was surprising to us because you think of the normal, or I guess not the normal, but the stereotypical miscarriage, like maybe your blood work's off, it's low, like you start
Right.
bleeding, whatnot. And that wasn't the case for us at all.
There were no signs.
No, there was nothing. Like I had a little cramping, but they told me that was kind of normal initially, but I didn't have any bleeding or anything. And she didn't really even tell me that I was miscarrying. She's like, yeah, I would say this is concerning. Do you want to talk to someone? I'm like, well, yeah, like, of course I do. Like, what do you mean? And I was trying to kind of get it out of her, but I think she was like not wanting to say it.
She didn't want to say miscarriage, but then what does she tell? Like, how do you not say it's a miscarriage if there's no heartbeat and you're pregnant?
Right.
What does that mean?
What a terrible thing to have to read between the lines about without getting a direct answer. Yeah.
So, I did end up talking to, I think it was like a nurse practitioner, and I went in and I'm sort of like hysterical at this point, and I'm again by myself. So I was like, maybe this person's just gonna like talk me down, like talk me through it. And she really didn't say a whole lot. She said, sometimes these things just happen, and sooner or later you'll start to bleed. And I was like, okay. And then I walked away. She called me back and I was like, okay, maybe she's got more information for me. And she was like, you're O negative, right? So just make sure like when you do start bleeding, you give us a call.
Oh my God.
And I was just a mess. Like I got to the car and I was just like, I'm not going to just hang out until I start bleeding. That's like the worst thing to do to somebody, to just wait. So we ended up having to schedule like a DNC because my body just wasn't. It's called a silent miscarriage. I had never heard of it before.
No.
And I guess it just goes to show like there's just not a whole lot of education out there about miscarriages. I think it's so common. I didn't really realize how common it is either. And I think, it was just kind of mind blowing, the whole experience.
It's like there's no education for things that have to do with the folks whose bodies contain uteruses.
Yeah. Fortunately.
Unfortunately. Right. So we learn these things while it's happening to us, which what the fuck, especially if it's a common thing.
Right.
Come on. Oh, I'm so sorry.
So, that experience was obviously negative, and I think after that it was a bit rough because we did have to kind of go through a lot of stuff before we could have our next IUI. It felt like so long. It was probably like 4 months, but it felt so much longer. I think we had to get, I don't even know, like HS, like some types of ultrasounds to make sure everything was clear and ready to go. And then everything was fine. And then at one point they're like, yeah, you can do it in 2 months. I'm the type of person I'm like, okay, let's get back into this. Like, I just want to get back into it. And so they finally let us do a second IUI that September. So it was like May, and then September we had our second one, which didn't take. And then the third one took.
Were you able to do the third one the next month?
Yes, in October. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well.
Yes. So like we kind of got through that. Summer was just, that was a horrible summer.
Yeah. But it was hard because we were in that place too. We were like, it's not always commonly talked about too. And I think trying to figure out like, how do we share this news of a miscarriage? Like, or, do we, and who do we feel comfortable with? And then just kind of relegating like people's responses to that. And
I was so hesitant because I just didn't know what to do. And I think when I did share it, I was pleasantly surprised at the responses I got because so many more people went through it than I realized. Like my coworker went through it like twice, and she had like talked to me about it, and it was just so eye-opening. So I think that actually gave me a feeling of like feeling better that like you're not alone in it.
It's so important to hear the stories. It's so important. That's the whole premise of this show. Like we got to hear these stories so we know that we're not alone in this whole thing. Right. So
Absolutely.
Mm.
And we even had friends who, you know, even if they hadn't gone through that experience personally, you know, just kind of responding like you would if, you know, you've had a friend who's gone through a loss and, you know, sent us a meal or just for checking in a little bit more on how we were doing. And so, you know, yeah, I guess we did find that in most occasions it was kind of nice to like talk
Share.
about it and share
Yeah.
it and you know, because then we were getting support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So shitty thing happens, terrible thing.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes.
And then 2 IUIs later.
Yes. So then we got pregnant in
Okay.
the third try, and I was cautiously optimistic.
Mhm.
I think I let myself breathe around like the
Yeah.
ultrasound at like the 20-week ultrasound. But
can
like
imagine, yeah.
everything went well with the
Mhm.
pregnancy. Like
Yeah.
I think I got sick for like a week. I probably shouldn't brag because there's so many people that are like
like me, who
like
was
have
sick
horrible
for like
pregnancies.
the whole first semester. Yeah. Trimester. I said
Yeah.
semester. Okay. And
but,
so easy
pretty
pregnancy.
fast labor. Yeah,
Okay.
the labor itself was pretty funny
Like
because
a
it was
solid well, you got there at like 7 centimeters dilated. So you did a lot of work you did a lot of work at home. And then
Yeah.
we got
They
there.
checked me out and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna have a baby today," and I was like, "Get this out of me now! Like, get me an epidural." Because they cut you off at like what 8 centimeters or something.
Yeah. So you're, yeah.
We should tell the pillow story though.
Oh yeah, you sent me home. I think I almost missed her daughter's birth because you sent me home to get a comfy pillow. And then like I get back and like 45 minutes later, you're like 3 pushes and
Oh
she's
my
out.
God.
Yeah, the
So-
nurse was like, "You can take a nap," and I was like, "These hospital pillows are not what I want to go to sleep." The nurse was like, "You got time, go home," because we're like 10 minutes away from the hospital.
Right.
Yeah, she comes back, and then the doctor came in and told us it was time to push. I'm like,
Yeah.
"I'm sorry, I wanted to sleep a little bit."
Yeah.
Like,
Oh my
and
God.
probably the first push, they were like, told me to stop because it was
Well,
like
the doctor
happening
wasn't there
so
at that
quickly.
point. Yeah. And I think it was, I just saw the look on the nurse and the attendant's like face of like, oh, like
She's coming.
Yeah,
we're
she's
going to
coming.
deliver this baby if you don't. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You should have seen the bag she brought for that. So
Yeah, there's a lot of large bags that come with me.
Okay, so baby comes, everything's great. And
Yes.
and now how old is baby?
She's 19 months now.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Wow.
19 months.
yeah,
All
she's
right.
doing well. We're really lucky. She's awesome.
And
Yeah, she's
well,
got a
Because
personality.
wrapped around her fingers.
yeah,
For
well,
sure.
Yeah, that's how it works. That's how it
Delegates a lot of
goes.
tasks.
Yeah, that's how it goes. But so Jill, in the beginning of this, you said that, you know, Marie, you said I wanted to do it. I wanted to experience, so I was going to go first. Does that mean you had already always thought you were going to have 2? Jill, do you have the desire to carry and do the stuff, do the thing?
I do not. You know, we definitely went into starting a family thinking we wanted to, you know, mostly just because, you know, we have sisters. We just kind of wanted, you know, we wanted siblings.
Mhm.
So yeah, the idea kind of going into it was like you knew you wanted to carry once, and it was, you know, whether if you didn't want to carry again, like a sense of equity that I would kind of, you know, try it, like, yeah, tag your it. So
And I also was like, I don't know if I want to do this twice.
yeah. So then that was kind of the idea going into it. So I didn't particularly feel like and I still, you know, don't feel like an urge to, you know, to carry on my own. So I was certainly happy when Marie wanted to the first time around. And yeah, we're kind of just in this place now of, you know, deciding whether we want to grow our family or not. I had kind of just within the past 2 years, like not trying to go get checked out fertility wise, had gone to my doctors just for some concerns related to my period and ended up finding out I do have, you know, some issues that would complicate the fertility process. Yeah, about 2 years ago, my periods were just getting like a lot worse, a lot heavier and more painful. I'd gone in for an ultrasound. They said I had fibroids, which was really common. Hey, why don't you go get another, you know, I got a sonohystogram, you know, just to kind of take a full picture of that uterus and see what's going on, and discovered that I have this congenital abnormality. It's a, unicorn uterus.
Oh, I've heard of this.
I never heard of it before.
We hadn't heard of it before.
So explain it.
So just
Do you want to explain the look on the doctors?
oh my gosh. So yeah, so it's this like pretty rare, again, congenital abnormality. So I didn't inherit it, just like a random shuffling of how my uterus kind of came together. And I guess, you have two parts of the uterus that are supposed to kind of go together and then kind of fuse in the middle. And with a unicorn uterus, half of the uterus is like underdeveloped. And so that generally means that you usually have either one fallopian tube or two, and one of them's, non-functioning. And, it's generally like a smaller, and usually there's like fertility implications.
There's not like a whole lot of research.
Of
Like, I
course.
think we were trying to
Of
look
course
it up
there's
and be
not.
like,
Right.
because again, I'm like, I need information. I want science. I want
Right.
research. And I'm like,
Right.
there's really not a whole lot out there, right?
Well, when you
Like,
look at like the odds, I guess it's like less than 0.1%. Like it's like
Right.
a pretty
Pretty
rare
rare, yeah.
thing. And as you said, right, there's just also not a lot of research and focus on it,
Right.
on women's issues in general. But yeah, so I guess it comes with like higher rates of miscarriage in the first and second trimester, higher rates of like preterm labor, and generally speaking, you'd have to do a C-section. So yeah, that was,
Yeah.
I think it was just a crazy, again, when you talk about like your interactions just with like the medical feeler system as you're kind of, doing this fertility piece, it was just like an odd way of finding it out. Most women, I guess, don't know that they have a unicorn uterus until, they've had recurrent miscarriages, and then, they're being seen in a fertility clinic.
Right.
And yeah, just the experience of the appointments when I found it out was just strange. As a doctor doing the procedure, not like my OB, and as they're kind of doing it, they are like, just so you have this, rare, it's a unicorn uterus, and he says this, and I totally, leaving the appointment, don't remember what he's told me. So I leave and I go to Maria, I'm like, he told me I have this uterus, it starts with a U, I don't know what it is, I gotta Google it right now.
Draw a banana or something.
Oh my God. He's like, people with this type of uterus can have these, he uses the phrase this rudimentary horn, but because he knows that he's saying all these things that I'm like a deer in headlights, he kind of describes it as this like little secondary uterus that's like either connected or like open to or connected to the uterus.
So technically we have 3 uteruses between
Look at you.
two of us.
3 uterus between you. 3 uteri.
Yeah. We just got a little extra one in there. So he's like, I'm going to look for that one right now. Like, okay, sure. And then they're like, at that appointment, they said I didn't have this kind of like, non-connected secondary uterus, this rudimentary, closed off rudimentary horn. So he's like, now we're going to check your kidneys.
Oh.
Like, what do you mean my
Why?
kidneys? Like, sometimes people with this type of uterus also either have one kidney or their
Jesus.
kidneys are not in the right place.
What the fuck?
Right?
What the fuck?
What?
Like my
I'm
kidneys
sorry,
too.
what? Right. Like I'm going in for fibroids and now I'm like, I'm up a uterus and down a kidney. Like, how does
what
this,
the
how does
fuck?
this work?
And I have a unicorn inside of me. Like,
And I mean,
wait,
unicorn.
what
Like
the fuck?
I thought I had a good sense, right? Identifying as a woman, as a lesbian, good sense of my anatomy down there. Now I'm totally lost.
No, not
Like,
at all.
no idea.
Oh my God.
My
Okay.
kidneys are fine. They're in the right place.
Okay,
I have
that's
2 of
good.
them.
Little mercies.
But yeah, right, exactly. And then, yeah. And, I think again, because this doctor in all good intention was, could tell I was pretty overwhelmed and with the information he was giving and not understanding it, decides to kind of draw a picture. And, he draws, the upside down triangle and, this is the typical uterus. And then as he starts to draw mine, it's like, kind of clear. It's not like this is a, everyone is a different shape and size.
One
And
of
they're all
these is
beautiful
not like the
flowers or
other.
whatever. So yeah, and he unfortunately uses, again, I think trying to use the layman term, it's like a banana shape. And I'm like, oh, I'll never forget that. You said that now. That'll forever be ingrained
Oh my God.
in my mind.
Oh, that's helpful.
So yeah, but I guess that's, the general, it's just a smaller size, which is why it tends to have more difficulty with fertility. I can get pregnant, but it's keeping the pregnancy.
Right.
And then, the labor piece that can add some complications. So yeah, I'm still very much trying to figure that piece out. And now we're kind of in a place where we're leaning towards, Marie, if we did want to have a second, Marie possibly carrying. But
I think there's also like so much like to think about too. I think a lot of families say, okay, I want 2 kids, and then they just kind of have a second.
Right.
I think for us, it was more thought. I guess we just put so much thought into it because there's so many different things that you like, lifestyle or financial piece of it, or like we mentioned, getting a dog, or like how much responsibilities do you want to have? But then also like it would be great for her to have a sibling. I mean, we have siblings. So I think for us too, it was just like, obviously the fertility stuff, but then also I think we're still in kind of 2 minds about how to move forward with it.
Well,
Like maybe more towards a second, but yeah.
Because there's so many choices. Because you're queer, right? So there's choices to make. There's decisions to make. It's not like, like heterosexual couples, they have the first and they know that if they have the second, it's going to be the same formula for the most part, right? You already figured it out, that worked. We're going to do that again. It doesn't work that way with us. There's options, there's choices, there's decisions to make. And like, Jill, like a big question I have for you is, do genetics matter to you? Do you want a genetic tie to one of your children?
It really doesn't matter to me. I mean, I don't have a genetic tie to Nora, and it couldn't matter less. And so I don't necessarily, again, feel the need to, have a genetic tie to a possible second. Right now, it's really more, what makes the most sense for us, emotionally, in terms of, how do we go through this process of it, knowing it could potentially be, more complicated if I'm carrying, but then, you're not super pumped about the idea of getting pregnant again and the emotional toll I think sometimes you have from that.
Yeah, I think for me, like the pregnancy was fairly easy, but the aftermath, which I hear a lot about, is just like the breastfeeding. I'm not like I love to breastfeed and I didn't like that experience. The hormones are just kind of all over the place. And I think it took me several months before I was feeling like myself again.
I think it took me a couple years, honestly.
It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, really only like now maybe I'm into like my like workout routine and like getting back on track with things. But I mean, I just didn't realize how much pregnancy can really throw you for a loop, not really even just during, but the aftermath of that. Like sort of like you got to get your sleep back, your hormones got to get back to normal. You have to like start eating right. You kind of have to and I think going from like not being a parent to being a parent is a massive change in itself. So
huge. And then you'd be going from a 1-kid house to a 2-kid house. And that's a massive change too. But like, also, did you use fertility drugs to get pregnant, or were they unmedicated?
No. So my doctor was kind of against that for me initially, just because they wanted to see if I could do it naturally.
Ooh, that's good.
Because all of my blood work and stuff was fine. So they did do the second round, a trigger shot, I think it's called. And it actually didn't work for the second IUI, which I thought was weird because it's almost like maybe your body wasn't ready yet to like ovulate, and the trigger shot kind of gets you there. And it did that. It didn't work for me at that point when I did that.
So you're kind of you're in between places right now. You're trying to figure it out.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. I think we're leaning more towards a second, because I think with us, like what we've talked about is, will we regret this like 10, 15 years down the road? Yeah. Will we be at like Christmas and be like, oh, I wish there was another one here? Or I talked to my sister a lot about it, really close with her, and she's pregnant right now with her second. And I think when it came to my mind and what she reminded me is that sort of all of our negatives are more temporary things. It's temporary loss of sleep, it's temporary emotional stuff and financial stuff, but sort of like to have a 5-year looking sort of ahead and where you would be at that point. So I think for us, we're leaning more towards a second, just because I mean, I think just if you can deal with like the first like 0 to 3 year, maybe things will kind of get like even out. And I just don't want to regret it later. I think that's kind of where we're at with
I
that.
think that's a good way to look at it. What path will you regret the least? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think we kind of, the past few months, we've kind of gone through this process. Like you said, it was like, first it was like very like, rational, like pros and cons. And neither one of us were like, had a real strong feeling either way. And I feel like you could live in that space for months, if not years, and then it was just recently, maybe like, I feel like there's been a few times where we've kind of gotten a little baby fever or like,
oh my God.
or
like the past couple months, I see a baby. I'm like, where's my baby?
Definitely.
My baby's
or like
running around now.
Or like Nora will be, playing like with one of our friends' kids and like playing as, loose terms. She could just be like within 6 feet of the kid. And we're just like, oh my God, she's going to be such a good sibling. Look at her, like right now, we got to do it.
She like runs up and kisses all the babies and tickles their feet.
She's not going to do that for her sibling. Don't worry. She's not going to do that at all.
I know. Yeah, that's a very good point.
But so there's
those ones aren't coming home with us. So
there's like a little more emotion kind of behind it that I think has like propelled us to like, make some of these like, we have some follow-up like appointments kind of coming up just to kind of get the ball rolling. But then again, it's like roller coaster ride, because now that we're like, it's like hitting us, we're kind of taking some like concrete steps to start it. It's like, oof, this whole process again.
We're also not like the youngest chickens.
Right. The clock is ticking. So you have to make your decision. But here, if there's one thing I know, whatever decision you make and stick with is going to be the right decision. And you have to be confident in that. And now, as we always say, I'm invested. So you have to let me know and you have to keep me posted. And I'll tell all the listeners, because we're all invested now. We want to know, did you go for number 2 or not? Because I think a lot of our listeners at home grapple with the same exact decision, right? And it's a real serious decision, especially for our families. So I'm glad you talked it through with me. And now you have to tell us what you decide.
We will.
Yeah,
we'll definitely follow up.
All right. Well, thank you so much for telling this story. I'm so glad you reached out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. We love the podcast.
Yes, we're big fans.
Love is love.
Well, folks, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. I know I did. What a good story. But the conversation is not over, folks. Be sure you're following the show on all the socials. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at the Queer Family Podcast. You're going to get photos of all the guests there, some videos, and just, all around fun from yours truly. Who doesn't want that? Don't miss out. You don't want FOMO. Nobody wants FOMO. And don't forget to join me on Patreon to help me create this super important queer content. You're going to head to patreon.com/the Queer Family Podcast to sign up and get that bonus content. And one more thing, if you love this show and want to represent your love for us and our beautiful families, you need to head to our shop and get some Queer Family Podcast merchandise. We've got so many designs, and you can put these designs on any product in the store. We've got t-shirts, mugs, hoodies, notebooks, face masks, laptop cases. You're just going to go to tpublic.com and search for the Queer Family Podcast. Or you can find the shop on our website at thequeerfamilypodcast.com. There's so many ways. All right, folks, that's it for this week. Tune back in next week for another episode all about family, but with gay.